enough. So when we were talking at the lunch table, it was a little bit about maybe more specifics on each child that you remember and kind of how a dynamic in the family changed as the new child came into the picture. So clearly, like when you first got married, it was just the two of you. There's a lot more freedom, you're going out, you're doing this and that. Then you have your first child, and then how it kept turning different, and how you chose 4 versus 3 or 5 or.
There are like stops for our social.
Sure.
After our children came out, Tony worked 2 and 3 jobs
At least.
Sure.
to educate these boys.
Mhm.
He went and educated them. And for years I did not work. And so but it was just family. It was everything that Dr. Spock wrote as far as the care of children and anything we could read about how to be good parents,
Mhm.
what we should do and not do.
Okay.
So that was our story. He worked all the time and I was home all the time.
When you knew, you obviously knew you wanted to have a family. Did you have a number set in your head? Like, did you know you wanted 4 children?
I never
All I know
thought,
is once we had 4, it was enough.
Okay.
We had 3 in grade school at the same time, 3 in college, 3 in high school at the same time, and
Yeah.
3 in college at the same time.
Okay.
So 4 was enough.
4 was enough.
And we wanted a girl, but after having 4 boys in a row, the chances of the next one being a boy was pretty
the
good.
same,
Sure.
same.
And you started to mention, I think, right as we wrapped up to go to lunch, that you think it would have been more of a challenge to be a father to a daughter.
Today,
Oh, no, I would not have had the mentality to raise a daughter.
Sure.
Uh,
And how so?
Because I was raised in the old Italian customs, and I saw what my sisters went through. The modern day person doesn't go through where if you go to pick up a girl, you have to go ahead of time and they have to fill out this lengthy interview sheet about who you are, what kind of job do you have, and stuff like that.
well, I remember your sister telling me, Lydia, that her parents would not let her go to the prom. So at that time, you were not living at home, and you talked to your parents to let Lydia go to the prom. So it was a very,
And she got specific instructions what time she had to be home, and I said to myself, it's a wonder she even got a date to go to the prom.
Sure. Now, is this your younger sister or your older sister?
Yeah, my younger sister.
Your younger sister, okay.
My older sister had an even tougher life.
Yeah, because I think you're probably more protective on the first, and
Yeah.
you kind of relax as time goes on, so yeah, so.
Well, and the older of me got involved in the situation, says, everybody goes,
Yeah,
and she ought to go also.
nice.
well, I bet chances are neither you nor
Hmm?
Anita, probably you or Anita did not go to the prom.
We did not.
No.
And do you know, like, why would you not have gone to the prom?
Not gone. There's a good reason. I certainly had no problem as far as looks concerned in getting a girlfriend. The only problem is I didn't have any money.
Sure,
I didn't have a car.
yeah,
If I had gone to a prom, I'd had to get somewhere to get the right kind of clothes. I wouldn't have had a car to pick her up. So I just didn't go.
okay,
It was completely different now with my younger sister and the younger brother. They went to everything.
okay,
Because in those days, when Anita started to work, she made like $14 a week, and $12 went to the home and $2 went to her.
mhm,
I started to work, I made $20 a week, and $4 went to me, and $16 went to the home.
mhm.
At the end of the week, my mother wanted to know how much was left from the $4.
Right,
So it was a different situation. I didn't have a car until I was 26 years old.
yeah,
And as a matter of fact, I came back, I had been to the service,
right,
and I came back and then had to wait because cars were not available.
sure,
And so when my kids complained, everybody has a car when they're 16, I said, no, not everybody, I didn't.
yeah. That's cool.
And I think this, in today's cars, getting a child with a car when he's 16, even a four-banger,
Mm-hmm.
that can go 100 miles an hour up a mountain,
Mm-hmm.
is giving him is giving him a gun.
Sure, absolutely. Better prompts. Not 100% sure what other.
But you know, when we talk about the hard times, they weren't hard, I don't remember them as hard times, because we were all, our neighbors were the same, you know? I mean,
Yeah, you were all in the same boat together.
Yeah, we all had the same situations.
Sure.
Somebody said, well, did you ever telephone? No. Well, how'd you communicate? And I said, you walked.
Yeah.
And, well, supposing he was a half a mile away, you walked.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, it's definitely like, it's funny because that's the same, like, you'll think about all of our modern technology and how it makes everything better, but from hearing both of your stories, it kind of sounds like you lacked for nothing, it just, it was
Pretty
just
like
different.
And
Yeah.
the thing is, most everybody had it the same way. As an example, very few people had a telephone, but the telephone, you always had access to it because somebody in the neighborhood would have a telephone,
Mhm.
and it was used if you needed a doctor right away.
Sure,
And that's all.
sure,
Like even when I went to the service, we didn't have a telephone in my house.
yeah,
So I would write ahead of time, I will call Mrs. Clemens on such and such a date at such and such a time. Be there.
yeah,
And it'll be collect.
right. And then, but you were able to do it, and it's funny, because if you think about generations before you and what you, because you came on right, basically during the Industrial Revolution with all,
Yeah.
you know, well, later than that, but when that, you were starting to see the fruits of that, I mean, think of the people who had to, you know, live in a hut with no water and no electricity, and they raised everything they ate.
But if you go to Williamsburg, it looks exciting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So.
No, the house that my father built in 1925
Mm-hmm.
had no inside facilities except a kitchen sink
Sure.
that had running water.
Do you know how they got the running water? Like, what, did it come off of a city line, or did you do a well?
No, there was a line that
Mhm.
was put out the whole street,
Okay.
and you could, it was like a couple bucks a month.
Uh-huh.
There was no sewer line until much later. And so everybody, there were outhouses everywhere.
Sure.
And so that was no problem as far as that's concerned. So everybody usually had a property size that you could move your outhouse every year or so. You would move it. And now the school that I went to was built. I occupied it in second grade, and that's when it was brand new.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it had inside toilets, flush toilets and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But in first grade, we went out, yeah, I need to go to the toilet. Well, go. You know,
Sure.
it's outside, you didn't stay very long.
Snowing, raining, yeah,
Yeah,
it's still.
it was, as a matter of fact, in first grade, we had pot belly stoves in the, inside the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
7 classes in one room, 7 different grades.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was privileged if they got the opportunity to get the coal bucket filled up, so they could go outside and get filled and stoke the coal furnaces that were all burning in there. But you know, you remember those things as normal.
Yeah,
You don't remember them as being abnormal,
sure.
and as good experiences. And I think there were some very good opportunities when you were in a classroom that was teaching 1st through 7th. You know, you learned, you know, each grade would have 4 or 5 students,
Yeah,
and you could learn from listening to the other ones. And
because I think you would almost have to, you'd
you
hear
can't-
what they
you
were
couldn't help
talking
it,
about.
You couldn't help it, I mean,
Yeah. And you at least have a familiarity when you went into the next grade on some
Yeah.
level.
then they built the new high school, and that all changed. Each one had their own individual classrooms until
yeah.
you got to 7th grade.
I can't think of another question.
Well, I want to say a few more things about
Sure.
our children. It was, I guess when Chip was being confirmed, and all family was there for the celebration. And there were many cars that went to church for the service. And we were having a big meal afterwards. And so during the time I was so busy, my sister-in-law and mother-in-law were helping me. And I kept saying, whatever Johnny is, I need him. So finally, Johnny walked into the house and I said, Johnny, where have you been? I needed you. He says, I was left at the church. And I walked home. And that affected him. When he had children, he never, ever left the parking lot of the church until he was sure his kids were in a car.
Sure.
Yeah.
We left John.
What?
That's the one we left John.
Yes.
Just because there was so much hustle and bustle.
Right, and we thought he was with Uncle John. Uncle John thought he was with us, and we just were confused.
Sure.
I think the most scary day that we ever had raising a family. Remember that night we found out that Chip had,
Cancer.
what was it?
John,
What was it called?
Hodgkin's.
Hodgkin's disease,
Mm-hmm.
which is cancer.
And how old
They
is he
call it the
at that
good.
point?
They call it the good cancer.
About,
It's got a very high cure rate.
right.
Yeah.
He was about 28, 26,
28.
28.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
that's when it usually strikes.
Okay. Yeah, that would be horrifying.
It was, and our prayers were, let us live with this. Whatever it is, let us be able to handle this.
Mhm.
And he was the lucky one. He got it all.
Absolutely.
And we were very grateful.
They did it with radiation to the point that I thought he was gonna lose his ear.
Okay.
There's even a funny story to that. When before radiation, the doctor said, now, you're going to lose about 2 inches of your hair. But that's nothing, he has a life. And so, when it all came out, we assumed it would be around here. It was straight up his head.
Oh, he just lost a patch of hair.
Yeah, it's about an inch wide.
Mhm.
It still shows.
Yeah, it still doesn't have hair.
No sign of it.
Okay.
And it was so funny because we just assumed it would be around here, that's,
Yeah.
but it wasn't. We laughed about that because people would say, what kind of hairstyle do you have, Chip? So,
It's very modern.
yes.
Was that a chemotherapy or is radiation
No,
just,
radiation,
that's just
that's
totally?
radiation,
Okay.
45 treatments.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And it's been
Oh, he's
20
45
years?
now.
Okay. So almost 20 years
Yeah,
in
oh, yeah.
remission. Good.
Yes.
And he has the two. So tell me what you guys thought when you, because John had the first grandson for you guys.
Right.
What was it like when Johnny was born?
It was delightful, and it's been a delight having these grandchildren. Johnny and I like to play games, so, and we started playing cards when they were very young. Their mother worked every other weekend,
Mhm.
so on the off weekend, well, the weekend she was working, John and so on brought them to our house, so we had them every other weekend. And as they were growing up with games and all, we started playing cards. And so I said, well, now I can play cards that you can win, or I can play cards that you can learn how to play cards. Well, we're tough guys, we all learn how. So I said, when you all start winning, that will be the end of our card games. And so it happened. They finally started beating me, and then now they come over from their home every so often just to play cards.
What game would
We
it be?
played 500 rummy, except I changed the rules. You cannot have any in sequence.
Oh, you couldn't do like a 2, 3, 4.
No, that's all you could.
Oh, okay.
It could only be in sequence, I'm sorry. You cannot have 3 of a kind,
Oh, okay.
because it makes the game bar longer.
Sure.
And so, to this day, when they play, they use grandma's rules. So that was fun watching them learn how, and they really can be terribly now. Where my third grandson, who was just a doll, doesn't like to lose.
Uh-huh. This is
So-
David?
Yes, David really does like to play cards with me because he likes to win. And now he's old enough to know that I'm letting him win, so he really doesn't like the game.
Sure, okay.
And Laura never did like to play cards. She didn't like it. But
So- Now they came along
they were,
later. They were born in
well,
the mid-90s?
David is 8 years old
Okay.
and Laura's 10.
Okay.
Yes, they did.
And what kind of stuff do you do with those guys?
Well, we play games, but it's games that David can win, and they're fun to talk to.
Mhm.
They tell me all kinds of things. For instance, I was with them one weekend, I guess, and we left the house, and I said, oh, I don't remember if I closed the garage door, I'm gonna turn around. And David says, oh, you don't have to, Grandma. I said, sure I do. Your dad would be furious. He says, we went away for the weekend and left it open. That's the things that parents wouldn't tell me.
Sure.
So,
One thing we don't do, we have a beach house, but we never take our grandchildren.
I
Okay.
used to take the older boys.
Huh?
I used to take Johnny and Mike.
Well, I don't remember,
And-
because it's a tremendous responsibility.
And remember Mike
With the
fell?
water.
Mike fell, and I wanted to call the doctor, take him to the hospital, and we called the parent. Stephen was with us that time.